Welcome to Acera's new employee slash mid-career seminar. In this seminar, we're assuming that you're either new or you're somewhere in your mid-career, hence the name of the seminar. So the bottom line is that you're not near retirement yet. And this is a good thing because it means you still have plenty of time to plan for retirement. So in this seminar, I'm going to tell you all those things you might want to know about doing that planning. And since you're curious enough about your retirement planning to watch this, you probably already have some questions. Questions like, what do I need to know about my pension? Do I need to do anything? If I need to do anything, what do I need to do? Well, we're going to answer those questions for you. I have organized the presentation into the form of this checklist. So I'm going to take you through the whole checklist. So here are the topics that we're going to cover today, okay? And I want to make sure that you all have a good understanding of what we're going to cover. And that way, if you already have some particular burning questions, you can save those until we're going to get to that topic because you know we're going to talk about it. Okay. And I do have a question. I assume we're all muted. Is that correct? Yeah, you should be hearing my voice, but you should not be able to speak because we're using the Q&A feature today. So that's correct. And you can actually already access a copy of the slides out on our seminar page. And whenever I go to the website, I can show you where to get that. But I'll remind you of that during the presentation. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about retirement basics. We're just going to start at the beginning. How does Acera work? What does Acera mean? Who is Acera? And as part of that retirement basics, we're going to talk about your contributions to the retirement system. And then that conversation is going to flow into a few more of the particulars of how Acera works regarding the retirement benefit that you're going to receive when you go to retire. And the math that we use to actually calculate that benefit is actually not very complicated. So I'm going to show you our retirement formula. And the details of that retirement formula are not only going to help you understand what to expect from your retirement benefit when you go to retire, it's going to help you understand the particulars of how to maximize that retirement benefit. So we'll talk about the age factors in the formula. We'll talk about earning service credit. We'll talk about the salary component of the formula, and we'll also talk about purchasing service credit when we talk about earning service credit. I will help you get a pension estimate. So I'll show you two ways that you can do a projection into the future of your future pension that you can expect when you retire. I will help you understand what it actually takes for you to become eligible to retire. So there's some different requirements. They have to do with years of service and age. We'll talk about all that. We offer some additional benefits like death benefits, healthcare benefits. I will talk about those briefly, and I'll help you understand what the qualifications are for getting those additional benefits. And I'll especially talk about the death benefits that your beneficiaries would have access to should you pass away before you retire. And we'll talk about designating your beneficiary or beneficiaries for those death benefits. Excuse me. Okay, then we're going to talk about career planning. I will show you some career planning options. And this, what I'm thinking of when I say career planning is in the event that you leave your job early, or actually whenever you leave your job, because you're not going to work at your job for the rest of the time that the universe is expanding. So there's going to be some point in the future where you stop working, and we'll talk about what your options are when that happens. I will also go into making a retirement planning picture. So this is going to be more like the overarching picture of what your retirement might look like regarding what your income is going to be in retirement from your Acera retirement benefit, from Social Security, and from additional savings. And we'll talk about how to save more money toward retirement and the particulars of that. And then, like I said in the intro, we will talk about starting a 457B account, and we'll transition to the county's 457B expert, and he will tell you all of the details about that. And then we'll talk briefly about signing up for Acera News. Okay, so that's everything that we're going to cover today. It's going to take about 3 hours, including the 457B stuff. So let's jump right in. Okay, first item on the checklist, understanding retirement basics. Who is Acera? Well, one way to think about Acera is this acronym, the Alameda County Employees Retirement Association. But Acera is made up of a lot of people. Okay, so there's about 90 plus employees of Acera. And what we do, our entire job is to provide retirement, disability, and death benefits to our members. So that's you. You're a member of Acera. So that means you are also part of Acera. You're also part of the who that is Acera. And you are a member of Acera because of where you work and the position that you work in. So you work full-time, or at some point you worked full-time in a retirement eligible position, and that automatically made you a member of Acera because you worked in that full-time retirement eligible position for one of the 6 public employers that participates in Acera. These are the 6 public agencies in Alameda County that use Acera to provide retirement benefits to their employees. So we have Alameda County, Alameda Health System, the Superior Court of California, First 5, Housing Authority, and Livermore Area Recreation and Parks District. So if you work for one of these agencies and you work, or at some point you worked in a full-time retirement eligible position, you automatically became an Acera member. So then what happens? Well, as an Acera member, you start contributing to Acera's fund with every paycheck. So if you look at your pay stub, and I think I actually have a screenshot of that. Here's an example pay stub of a county pay stub. If you look at the before tax deductions column, you'll see a line in there that says retirement, and maybe it'll say your tier. We'll talk about tiers in a few minutes. And there will be some money that comes out of your current paycheck, and it also tells you how much has come out year to date. That money is coming from your paycheck, and it's going into Acera's fund. Every time that happens, your employer is also making a contribution to Acera's fund on your behalf. So we have the employee contributions and the employer contributions adding to Acera's fund continually. But we don't want that money to just sit around and lose ground to inflation. Okay, so what we do to counteract that, and also perhaps to earn more money, is we invest your money all over the world in a diverse array of investments. And we actually do earn a lot of money on average. It's over 7% per year if you look at the last 30 years. And that is the third source of funds for Acera's fund. Okay, so the employee contributions, the employer contributions, and the earnings on our investments. Okay, so we have this pool of money that is Acera's fund. And what do we do with that money? Okay, because we're collecting it and earning it for a certain purpose. And that purpose is you. You are earning credit toward retirement as you work. So throughout your entire career, your entire membership with Acera, you're continually earning credit toward retirement. And that means a few different things, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. At some point in the future, you're going to stop earning credit toward retirement while you work, and you're going to stop working, and you're going to start collecting that retirement that you've earned throughout your career. You're going to collect that retirement that you've earned in the form of a monthly retirement allowance every month for the rest of your life. It's amazing. You cannot outlive your retirement. It is a guaranteed income that once you earn it, you can expect and count on receiving it every month on the last business day of the month for the rest of your life. It's a secure retirement that you have earned. So that is basically how Acera works. And your participation in Acera as a defined benefit pension plan is special. Not a lot of people these days get to participate in a defined benefit pension plan. One of the reasons that it's special, one of the things that I'd like to point out is that as you are working, throughout your career and you're paying money into the retirement system with every paycheck, we are keeping that in a contribution account for you. And we are posting interest to that account every time the fund earns interest. When you retire, okay, so when you stop paying in and you start collecting, we start giving you all that money back, including the interest that you've earned. You're going to get all that money back that you paid in throughout your entire career, plus the interest in the first 3 to 5 retired years. Okay. Let's say that you live another 30 years after you retire. Everything after that first 3 to 5 years, it's like this amazing bonus that you get because you have participated in a defined benefit pension plan where you've pooled your money with other public employees, and you've allowed SERA to invest that money. And it's, in fact, it's the investment earnings that pay for 3/4 of that lifetime allowance. So it's a really special thing that you get to participate in. And it's pretty much only government employees these days. Their private pensions are a thing of the past. Okay, there is a question up on the board. Are TAP employees eligible for retirement benefits from SERA? Not yet, until you get that full-time retirement eligible position. And then you can actually buy all of your TAP time to add to your amount of service credit. I'll talk about that in just a minute. Okay. But you do have to get that full-time retirement eligible position. You have to be hired into that before you become an SERA member. And TAP is the county's temporary assignment pool for those of you unfamiliar. Okay, let me show you some pension milestones. This helps illustrate. If you have this timeline in mind, it helps illustrate a lot of the concepts we're going to talk about. These are some of the milestones you can expect with your membership with SERA. Okay, so first milestone, your date of hire. This is your first day of work in your full-time retirement eligible position. For most of our employers, this is, actually, let me go back. For everyone, this is the first day of work in your full-time retirement eligible position. This could be the date that you were first hired, or if you started out part-time or in some other capacity like in TAP, this would be your first day of your full-time retirement eligible position. Okay, then what happens is for most of our employers, 2 weeks goes by, and the first day of your second pay period, that is your first day of a SERA membership, also known as your date of entry. This is the date where you start paying into a SERA and you start earning credit toward retirement. For 2 of our employers, I think it's the Housing Authority and Livermore Area Recreation and Parks District, you actually have your date of a SERA entry as your date of hire. So there's no 2-week gap. But for everyone else, there's a 2-week gap. Okay. So now you're a SERA member. What happens next? Well, 5 years goes by. And then at 5 years, you're considered vested in the retirement system. And various things happen at 5 years. One of the things that happens is some of the retirement eligibility requirements are met. The death benefits, should you die as an active member, increase. But vesting really means, it kind of means guaranteed. And this is the point at which you're guaranteed that lifetime retirement once you become retirement eligible. Now, having said that, there is a way to become eligible for retirement with less than 5 years, and I'll talk about that when I talk about retirement eligibility. But for the most part, that those guaranteed retirement benefits you kind of achieve that guarantee of 5 years of service credit once you've worked full time for 5 years. Okay. Then there's the next milestone is retirement eligibility. At some point in the future, you're going to meet the requirement, and there's different combinations that you can meet of years of service credit and your age that get you to retirement eligibility. And we'll talk about what those combinations are a little bit later. And this is your first day that you can actually retire if you so choose. Or you can continue working past retirement eligibility and earn more and more retirement, and then retire at some day in the future after you've earned more. Okay. So a lot of people will do that because once you achieve retirement eligibility, maybe you haven't quite achieved the retirement allowance amount that you are wanting. And so you keep working and you earn more credit toward retirement. Okay, the next milestone is your retirement date, and this is a date that you choose when you feel like you're ready to retire. you've earned enough toward retirement, or you're just ready to get out of here and can go ahead and retire. And this is when you stop earning your retirement, your credit toward retirement, and when you start collecting your retirement. And you're going to collect that retirement in the form of a monthly retirement allowance payment every month until your death. And that's when your retirement payment stops. But there is another milestone on here. At the time of retirement, there are various options that you can choose that will leave a continuing payment, also known as a continuance. It's a continuing monthly payment to a beneficiary, often for the rest of their life. And so when your beneficiary dies, that is when the full payments stop, because after your death, they're getting continuing payments until their death. Okay, these are the pension milestones. Many of the pension milestones you can expect. We might actually add a couple as we go along when we talk about various concepts. And one more thing about vesting, I said it happens at 5 years of service credit, and that includes reciprocity. We will talk in detail about reciprocity later, but reciprocity is linking various California retirement systems together to kind of form a synergy between the different retirement systems, and you get some advantages from doing that. And the guarantee that vesting is, because I said vesting kind of means guaranteed, and you get the guaranteed benefits. Those benefits are guaranteed by state law, okay? So yeah, vesting, it just kind of means guaranteed. So once you achieve the 5 years of service credit, you're guaranteed the guaranteed retirement benefits upon becoming eligible to retire. So it's kind of, yeah, it just kind of means guaranteed. And the guarantee comes by state law. The vested benefits that you are guaranteed by being an ACERA member are that monthly retirement benefit for life, an annual cost of living adjustment to your retirement allowance. This is an annual increase you get in retirement. And it's also known as a COLA, happens every year. And then there's a $1,000 lump sum death benefit. There are other death benefits that are greater than this $1,000 lump sum death benefit that you can choose at the time of retirement, but this is kind of a basic $1,000 lump sum benefit that's just considered vested. So I like to put it on the list. And the question, what happens if you leave before vesting? We have a whole topic on that. So I'm going to save that question for when we get there. Okay. And in some cases, when you can actually retire once you reach age 70. So we'll go into that. Okay, let me tell you about your tier. Your tier is sort of an important concept. And so it's good to know what tier you're in. So the way the tiers work is it's based on your date of entry into ACERA. So what you want to do first is figure out which one of these timelines to look at, because you're only going to look at one. Now, first of all, safety members are sheriff's deputies and probation officers, and perhaps there may be some other sworn officers that are members of ACERA that are considered safety members, but those are basically safety members. So if you're not a safety member, you're a general member. So safety members look at this timeline, general members look at this timeline at the top, unless you're a general member for the Housing Authority or you're a general member for Livermore Area Recreation and Parks District, and then you're going to look at the timeline for those two employers. Now, the way the tiers work is if you entered ACERA, your date of entry, your first day of ACERA membership is before the cutoff date for each one of the tiers, that puts you in the earlier tier. So if you entered ACERA, this is a new employee mid-career seminar, so probably nobody here is tier one, because there's very few tier one people left who haven't retired yet. But if you did enter ACERA before July 1st, 1983, that would put you in tier one. Now, if you entered ACERA July 1st, 1983, all the way up to December 31st, 2012, that means you are in tier two. If you entered ACERA January 1st, 2013 and beyond, that puts you in tier four in any case for all of the timelines. Now you'll notice that the safety members have a few different tier twos. So if you went into tier 2B, if you entered between July 1st, 1983 and October 16th, 2010, if you entered October 17th, 2010, all the way up to December 31st, 2012, you had the choice between Tier 2C and Tier 2D. Also, if you enter Acera with reciprocity from another California retirement system where you've linked it together, and for all of the different uh, types of employment, and your entry date into that original system is before the cutoff date, that could put you into an earlier tier as well. Okay. But for the safety members, you had the choice between Tier 2C and Tier 2D, and you had to choose it within the first 45 days of your safety membership. And then for LARPD, there's a Tier 3 that nobody else has. And then for Housing Authority, the Tier 2 cutoff is different. Okay. Now, if you don't know what your date of entry is, one way to figure that out, remember what it is to log into your account on Acera's website. So you just go out to our website, press the login button, log into your account. If you've never done it, you will have to create an account, make a username and password, answer some security questions. And when you get in there, you'll find all of your pension data waiting for you in there. And it will tell you what your date of entry is in it. And actually in there, it will tell you what tier you're in. So if you just want to be sure, it tells you what tier you're in your Acera account. The difference between the tiers, to answer one of the questions that popped up on the board, the way that we calculate the retirement is slightly different among the tiers, and you'll see that as we go along and I tell you more about the details of how Acera works. And then there's a question, is there a situation where an employee could lose their retirement benefit as a result of an adverse separation? The only one I can think of is if you commit a felony in the course of your employment, you could lose all of your retirement that you earned after committing the felony. Otherwise, if you separate from your employment, you're still going to be an Acera member, and you're still going to have your rights to your Acera membership. And we will be discussing how to buy back. Your tier on your paycheck, it should be accurate with the caveat that if you're brand new, often what they do is they put you in a tier 4 to start off with. And then once you fill out our member enrollment questionnaire, and we learn more about you, it's possible that they might put you after, it could take like 4 to 6, maybe 8 weeks. They would put you in the correct tier if you had reciprocity. Otherwise, if you've been around for more than a couple of months, the tier on your paycheck should be correct. And if it's not, you should go ahead and contact us. And you can find our contact page out on the website. Okay, so now I'm going to show you this slide. And the reason I'm doing this is to give you some context for the whole discussion that we're going to have during this webinar. So we're going to revisit we're going to revisit this slide later. So this is a picture of your retirement income. This is one way to envision your retirement income after you retire. So you think into the future. You're a new employee, or you're in your mid-career. You think 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, whatever it is for you into the future. And you've earned your retirement, or you've gone through a long career. What will maybe your income look like when you retire? Well, it can come from a few different sources. One of those sources is going to be that Acera monthly pension. And you'll see these terms, I'll throw around these terms, they all kind of mean the same thing. Acera monthly pension, Acera monthly benefit, Acera pension, Acera retirement allowance, monthly retirement allowance. These all describe the same concept, which is that monthly payment you get every month for the rest of your life once you retire that you've earned, okay? So this is one source of income after you retire. Okay, next is Social Security. If you're paying into the Social Security system, once you become eligible to collect it, often the early Social Security retirement is age 62, but you can wait a little bit to collect more and more. That's going to be another source of income in retirement. Beyond those two, and perhaps you have another pension with another public employer that you've earned, Excuse me. Beyond that, it's going to be your savings and investments that you have put away over the course of your career. And what financial planners will tell you is that in order to maintain your standard of living in retirement, what you're going to need in with all of these things in combination, your income is going to need to be 70 to 80% of whatever you were making while you were still working. Now, if you haven't saved anything yet, that may seem like a tall order. Or if you're brand new, that may seem like a tall order. But don't worry, because I'm going to break it down for you. So we'll talk about each one of these things in detail. We'll revisit the savings and investment thing, and it's actually not that complicated because you all are very smart, you're very competent, you're very good at your jobs. You're able to understand like everything about the complex nature of the things that you do. And so these things are actually fairly simple concepts in comparison. And I'll break it all down for you. But the reason I'm showing you this slide now is because at first, for most of the presentation, we're going to talk about the Acera monthly pension. Then we'll revisit this slide. We'll talk about Social Security and savings and investments. Okay. 70 to 80, the question, I'm pretty sure they mean gross. But you could probably calculate it either way, especially when it gets closer to your retirement and you want to do like a calculation of your expenses, that the expenses are paid out net, so you could do it either way. But I think they usually mean gross as like a ballpark. Okay, so let's dig into how Acera works a little bit more. Let's first talk about some pension math. Okay. Now, here is Acera's pension formula. This is how we're going to calculate your retirement when you go to retire. And if you're new, you're probably asking, well, why are you showing me this now? I don't need to know this right now. It's good to understand how this works because when I told you earlier that you're earning credit toward retirement, you're earning credit in these three categories: by getting older, by working longer, and by earning higher and higher salary. Because this is a multiplication, the higher any of those three numbers are, the higher your pension benefit is, your monthly retirement allowance for life is going to be when we go to calculate it. So it's good to know how these things work now so that you can maximize each one of these three things. So when you go to retire, you will get, as your monthly retirement allowance, you will get a percentage of your highest salary that you have earned for each year of service that you have worked. You're going to get a percentage of your highest salary for each year of service that you worked. Okay. This sentence is kind of saying in English what this equation is trying to illustrate. Let me give you an example. It will help illuminate this a lot better. Okay, let's say that the percentage of your highest salary that you're going to get for each year of service is going to be 2%. And let's also say, in this example, that you work for 20 years full-time or the equivalent of full-time. So you earn 20 years of service credit. Okay. So your retirement allowance is going to be 2% of your highest salary for each one of those 20 years. So for each of the 20 years, you're going to get 2% of your salary. So all we do is we multiply the 2% times the 20 years to figure out what percent of your salary you're going to get. 40. 2% times 20 is 40%. Okay, so that means that your highest average, your retirement allowance is going to be 40% of your working salary. To take this example further, let's say that your highest average monthly salary, and these are all gross numbers, is $5,000. So if your salary while you work is $5,000 and your retirement allowance is going to be 40% of that, we just simply multiply those together, $2,000. That's your retirement allowance. So you see, it's not actually that complicated. Okay. So you get the percentage of your highest salary for each one of those years of service. Now, in that example, what we say that you are achieving is 40% income replacement, because your income was $5,000. You're getting 40% of that as your retirement allowance. And so you're achieving 40% income replacement. And so if you remember, the target is 70 to 80%. And actually 40% from your pension alone is pretty good. We'll talk more about that later. Now, again, the bottom line is that the higher any of these numbers are, the higher the age factor percentage, the higher the years of service, the higher the salary, it means a higher retirement allowance. So to maximize this pension benefit, you want to maximize each one of those three numbers. Let me tell you about each one of these numbers in a little more detail. Okay, each one of these three factors in the formula. We'll start off with the age factor percentage. The question is that I'm posing to you is, what percentage of your highest salary will you get for each year of service? What is your age factor percentage going to be? Well, you can look into the future and you can see what it might be, because it's not going to be exactly the 2% in most cases, like I was giving you in the example. It's going to be based on your age at retirement. What I'm showing you here on the slide is a sample age factor percentage chart. And what you're going to do is find your tier on here. So whether you're a safety member, you find your tier over on this side, or you're a general member, you find your tier over on this side. And you just look at that one column, okay? So for example, I'll take general tier 4 members. This is your set of age factor percentages that we're going to use for you in the formula. We're going to use one of these depending on what age you are when you retire. So for example, if you retired age 65, we're going to come over to the chart. We're going to go down to age 65. We're going to come over to tier 4, 2.30%. That is the percentage that we're putting in the formula for you. That is the percentage you will get, 2.30% of your highest salary for each year of service if you retire as a general tier 4 member at age 65. Okay. So that's how that works. You'll notice a few things about the chart. You'll notice that the percentages get higher and higher the older you are when you retire, up to a certain limit for each tier. And the limit is illustrated by the blue highlighted box. That is the highest age factor percentage you can get for your tier. So for tier 4, it's 2.50%, retiring at age 67. For tier 2, it's 2.43%, but retiring at age 65, a little bit earlier. You may also notice that I skipped a bunch of the ages. And that is because there are so many age factor percentages that they don't all fit on the slide, because they will actually increase with every quarter year that you get older based on your birthday. So for example, if your birthday is January 15th and you're age 52 and you're going to retire, but then you decide, no, I'm going to wait another quarter year, I'll retire on April 15th, you would go up one notch in this chart, and there would actually be a slight incremental increase. There would be another one for 52 and a half, 52 and 3/4, 53, 53 and a quarter, 53 and a half, and so on and so forth. And so every quarter year that you get older and don't retire based on your birthday, every time you pass one of those dates, you get a slightly higher age factor percentage. And if you want to see what they are, they're all out on our website. If you go to acera.org/age, you can see the full set of all the age factor percentages. Let's see. There's a question, is there a reason safety tier 4 doesn't increase after the age of 57? Yeah, because whenever tier 4 was created by the state in 2012, it started on January 1st, 2013, for both the general tier 4 and the safety tier 4, and it was part of a pension reform act. Pension reform, I'm doing air quotes, that's what they called it, where they wanted to standardize pension benefits across the state for all of the county systems. And so they created this set of age factors. So that was what the state legislators decided would be the set of age factors. So they decided that for the safety members, they would have to wait a little bit longer than the other safety tiers to reach the full age factor percentage, and it would be a little bit lower than the 3% in tiers 1, 2B, and 2D. And that was just their decision. So that's the reason for that. The housing authority tiers So the housing authority, it's all the general tiers. So you'd be looking at tier 2 and tier 4 and tier 1. And oh yeah, good question. I forgot to point that out. Can you work beyond 67? Yes. If you work beyond the maximum age for your tier, you just get whatever the maximum age factor is. So if you worked to, if you're general tier 4, you work to 68 or 67 and a half or 69 or 79, you'd still get the 2.50% in the formula for you. The bottom line, because you all are new or you're in your mid-career and maybe you don't need to remember all these details right now, if you take anything away from that discussion of the age factor percentages, just remember this. It basically, in general, the older your retirement age equals a higher age factor percentage. So the older you are, the higher the age factor percentage. That's one of the ways that you earn greater and greater credit toward retirement. And the retirement formula is simply by getting older. Okay, we talked about the age factor percentage. Let's talk about the years of service credit. I mentioned this earlier in the presentation. I showed you this pension milestone chart. I said you start earning service credit when you become a member of ACERA. This is the day when you start earning service credit. Your first 15 minutes of work, you earn 15 minutes of service credit with ACERA. Okay, you're going to keep earning service credit while you work over the years, all the way up until your retirement date, if you go straight from active work into retirement. Now, for some of you, maybe you don't do that. Maybe you stop working and you don't retire immediately and you defer your retirement to a later date. Perfectly fine. People do it all the time. In your case, there would be an extra milestone here, which would be your termination date. And that would actually be, that would actually be when you stop earning service credit. So basically, you earn service credit while you work. During your regular work hours, you're earning service credit. You also earn service credit during your earned leave times listed out here. Vacation leave, sick leave, management leave, comp time, which is compensatory time, holidays, floating holidays. You're earning service credit while you're out on that leave. It does not count against you for the purposes of calculating your retirement. So, because we have a list of times when you are earning service credit, we also have a list of times when you do not earn service credit. If you ever go out on leave without pay, you do not earn service credit while you're out on leave without pay. Some of the reasons, one of the major reasons that people go out on leave without pay is you're out on medical leave without pay, which means that you're out on a medical leave, you burn through all your vacation and sick leave and all your other leave, and you're just on leave without pay. During that time when you're on leave without pay, you're not earning service credit. Also, additionally, if you purchase vacation from your employer, which is additional vacation on top of your earned vacation, so if you purchase that additional vacation, which some of our employers will allow you to do, and you take that purchased vacation, so whenever you mark that purchased vacation on your timesheet, you're not earning service credit during that time and is not purchasable. But don't worry, missing out on a week of service credit here and there because you're using a purchased vacation isn't a big deal. So don't worry about it. Okay. Another concept, selling vacation. This is where you take your earned vacation and you sell it back to your employer because you're not going to take it and you want cash. You do not earn service credit for that. You could, at the end of your career, earn salary credit for that in the salary component of the formula. We will not take a deep dive on that today, but I'll talk a little bit about it in just a minute when we talk about the salary component of the formula. Okay, now, these other three times, you're not earning service credit when you're on overtime, on-call time, or standby time. Okay, so that's the list when you're not earning service credit. Okay, now let me tell you about purchasing service credit because you've probably heard about this concept. I mentioned it when we're talking about the table of contents and topics we would cover. And this is a good concept to know and understand as somebody who's new or somebody in their mid-career. So there are some types of time that are eligible for you to purchase as ACERA service credit that you that will increase your amount of service credit in the formula, which means that your retirement allowance will be greater because it's one of the multipliers in the formula. And the basic idea here with most of these types of time is that if circumstances were slightly different, you could have earned service credit for the time, but circumstances being what they were, the law doesn't allow you to earn service credit for the time. Your employer doesn't allow you to earn service credit for that time. So you didn't earn service credit for it, but you could have the opportunity later to buy that time as a SARA service credit. That's kind of the general nature of these eligible types of time. So let me tell you about each one of these in detail. If you started out work, and the first one, ineligible non-covered service purchase, this means that the time that you're buying was initially ineligible or not covered, meaning you weren't able to earn service initially. This includes part-time work where you started out working for your employer on a part-time basis. And I'm not talking about for a temporary agency, and I'm not talking about under contract because those are ineligible. Totally. You can't ever buy those. But this is just plain old part-time working for your employer. You didn't earn service credit for it when you worked at the time, but once you got your full-time retirement eligible position, then you could go back and buy that part-time work. The same goes for the TAP time. That's the county's temporary assignment pool that someone was asking about earlier. All the TAP time is purchasable once you become an ASERA member. Okay, also, there's some types of time that are labeled as seasonal, intermittent work, service as needed work, project work, per diem work. These are all types of time where you were working for your employer, but you didn't earn service credit and you can buy it back later. Okay, next one is that 2 weeks in between your date of hire and your date of entry. You can buy that 2 weeks. 2 weeks doesn't get you a whole lot, but you can, you can see what it costs and, maybe it's worth it to you. And I'll actually tell you in just a minute how to determine whether a service credit purchase is worth it to do. Okay, next category is unpaid medical leave. Now, this is for your own medical condition. So this isn't for a family member's medical condition. This is for your own medical condition. And this is where you're out on unpaid medical leave. And you can, once you return from that leave, you can buy up to a year's worth of unpaid medical leave to add to your service credit. Similarly, state disability insurance leave, you can buy that time once you return from that leave. Often the way that works is you get hurt at work, you're on state disability or you're on workers' comp, and the state is paying you from that system partially, and then your employer is giving you a partial paycheck. The part of that time where you're getting your employer's paycheck, you're actually earning partial service for that time. But the other portion of it, the part where you're getting paid from the state, that will become purchasable when you return from that state disability insurance leave time. Also, if you go out on military leave during your membership, once you return from that leave, you can purchase that time. This is active military leave. So this isn't for military service prior to your membership. Okay, these next two items, these are also, for those of you that this applies to, these are also important concepts to understand. The redeposit of the prior memberships, what that is that you used to be an ASERA member in the past. So you worked for one of our 6 employers. You did some work, you earned some service credit, you paid into the system, and then you stopped working. You quit, or you got fired, or you got laid off, or whatever it was. You stopped working. And when you did that, you took a refund of your contribution account balance, all of that money that you had paid into ASERA. When you did that, you lost your ASERA membership. You lost all your service credit. Now you're back working one of those full-time retirement eligible positions for one of ASERA's employers. And you want to put your money back in that you had taken a refund of to get your service credit back from that initial membership. Well, you can do that, and that is called a redeposit. And so we do that all the time. So feel free to submit a request for that and ask how much that's going to cost. Okay, now redeposit of community property. This is when you have you go through a divorce or you go through a domestic, state registered domestic partnership dissolution. Okay, so while you were married or while you were in the state registered domestic partnership, whatever retirement you earned during that marriage or that partnership, that membership, that those retirement benefits, that is one of the pieces of community property that is on the table for division whenever you divide up the assets when you get divorced or dissolve your domestic partnership. So if the way your divorce agreement worked is that your ex-spouse got part of your account, which means they took part of your service credit and part of your contributions with them, if they get their separate account, if they then take a refund of the money that was portioned off for them, what we will do is we will notify you of that. We will notify you of that. We'll send you a letter in the mail saying your ex-spouse took a refund. Would you like to redeposit that money? You're not redepositing the same money, of course, because they, took the money, but you could redeposit an equivalent amount and get your service credit back. That is a redeposit of community property. Okay, last category is other California prior public service. This is where you worked for a different public agency in California. There's some examples here: East Bay MUD, Port of Oakland, state jobs through CalPERS, other counties, other states. And you are not eligible for their pension, whatever pension system they use, because you took a refund of your contributions from their pension system. If you did that, you can actually buy that time. Let's say you worked for East Bay MUD for 2 years. You could buy that 2 years as a SARA service credit. Okay. There's more information. There's more details about all of these if you go to acera.org/service. That's our page. The deadline, I see there's a question up there. The deadline to buy back service time is you got to do it before retirement. So you got a long time to do it. Now, you will want to do it as soon as possible, and I'll tell you why in just a minute, because of the interest. Okay. But let me first show you this list of time that is not eligible for purchase, because people always ask about these. The vacation purchase time. When you purchase extra vacation and you go out on that vacation, you don't earn service credit and you can't purchase that time back. But like I said, it's not a big deal. It's a week here or there. It's not going to affect your retirement allowance that much. So don't stress out about it. Also, non-medical leave without pay, not purchasable. It has to be medical leave without pay. Contract or temporary agency time, not purchasable. I mentioned that before. If you have the other prior public service time, let me go back one slide. This time right here, and you still have money on deposit with the pension system over there, we won't let you purchase the time until you take a refund from their pension system. Now, just to give you a caveat here, if you earned a lot of time with their system, like maybe you have 5 or 10 years in CalPERS, for example, you may not want to take a refund. You may just want to retire and get their pension benefits, get a separate payment from them, and then just don't worry about trying to include that time as a SARA service credit. Okay, so this is not the same as reciprocity. I see that question up there. The other prior public service time, if you, let's say that you work for Contra Costa County for 10 years, you come over to SARA within 6 months, you get a new job and you link the systems together. You don't have to buy that time because you're still a member of Contra Costa County retirement system, and you're also a member of SARA, and you got them linked together. You don't have to worry about buying this time because you're already going to get credit for that time you worked over there. So this whole concept of buying the other prior public services, if you don't have reciprocity and you're not eligible for the pension from that other employer, that's when you might want to think about buying that time as a SARA service credit. Okay, so let's see here. And then there's a question: can I purchase service credit if I cashed out of STRS in a prior employment? STRS. Nancy, I'm going to let you answer that question because I don't know the answer to that, if STRS counts. So Nancy will type out the answer for you. Okay, so here's what a service credit purchase is going to cost. It's going to cost whatever your employee contributions had been had you worked the time. To give you an example, you go out on 3 months of unpaid medical leave and you return from that unpaid medical leave and you want to buy that time. Well, had you been here working for the 3 months and earning the service credit, you would have been paying into Acera with each paycheck. But since you weren't getting a paycheck, you weren't paying into Acera. Now, whatever money you would have paid into Acera during that 3 months that you're trying to buy, that becomes what it costs to buy that service credit. So it's pretty fair. It's pretty easy calculation for that. Whatever you would have had to contribute, you pay a certain percentage, and based on the amount that you earn, your contributions are a certain amount. So you can actually go back through your payroll records and kind of do a calculation for yourself based on what you were earning at the time. And you can see what you were contributing to at the time. And then you can kind of do a rough calculation of what you would have had to pay into the system if you go back and look at your pay stubs. So that's part of your purchase cost. You're also going to have to pay, we're going to add to it, any interest that money would have earned between then and now. So to stick with that 3-month example, you go out on 3 months of unpaid medical leave. Okay. You return from that medical leave. 5 years passes. Then you want to see how much the purchase is going to cost. Well, had you contributed that 3 months worth of contributions to Acera's fund, we would have invested it and it would have earned interest. But since you did not, you're going to have to pay the interest that would have earned between that time and now. We have 2 interest periods per year, the first half of the year and the second half. So we post interest as of June 31st and June 30th and December 31st. So every time one of those dates passes and you don't make the purchase, we add a little more interest to what the cost is going to be. And we'll do all this calculation for you. And the way that you figure out what the cost is going to be in the interest included is by submitting a purchase redeposit request to Acera. You can log into your Acera account, go to acera.org/WMS and complete a purchase redeposit request. And we will do the calculations for you and send you a letter with the cost. And then once you get the letter, it tells you how much the purchase is going to cost. At that point, you can decide how much of the purchase you want to make, or if you want to make any of the purchase at all. And then going back to the list, all of the types of time, except for the redeposits, you could purchase a portion. Let's say that we tell you the year that you want to buy is going to cost $5,000 and you don't want to spend that much. You only want to spend $2,500. Well, you could buy the 6 months worth as long as you're not trying to buy a redeposit. The redeposit is all or none. Okay, now one more caveat about the cost. When you are buying these types of all the first bullet points at the top of the list, you're only paying the employee part of the contribution because the employer is your employer. They're going to put in their employer part of the contribution. If you want to buy the other California Prior Public Service, it's going to cost about triple because you're going to pay the employee portion and the employer portion. And so that is going to be more expensive. Excuse me. Okay. And then a couple more things I wanted to point out. We don't have a good way for you to really calculate the purchase the purchase cost plus the interest on your own. I can kind of show you, if you enjoy math, I can kind of show you how to do that. So if you go out to our website, let me switch the share over to our website. Here's our website, acera.org. If you, let me see here. If you go under understanding your benefits, there's a post on contributions and rates. Go ahead and click that. In there, you can see what the average contribution rates are. You can see what your individual contribution rates are. There's also a chart of how much interest a Sarah posts. And there's a chart out there. You can actually download an Excel version of this. And like I said, what you can do is you can go back through your payroll stubs, see what your contributions, would have been, just a ballpark had during that time. That you would have had to make the contributions, the time that you're trying to buy. And then you could take that amount of money and you can see how much interest that money would have earned during the last interest periods between the time that you're trying to buy and now. So, that's all up to you. Otherwise, go ahead and make the request to us and we'll do all the math for you. Okay. So just log into your account, do the purchase request. We'll do all the math for you. And then you actually have different payment options if you do want to make the service credit purchase. You can write us a check, a lump sum check on a post-tax basis. And just as an aside here, you're contributing to the retirement system on a pre-tax basis. So your contributions to ACERA lowers your tax liability every year that you are in your job. And so you actually have to pay less taxes because you're taking some of your gross pay and you're putting it over into your contribution account with ACERA. Okay, so when you go to make a service credit purchase, you also have the opportunity to roll over money from a different type of retirement account, or you can do payroll deductions. We'll split it up for you over time, or any combination of the above. The limit for how many pay periods we'll split it up over is kind of based on how much time you're trying to purchase. If you're trying to purchase a year's worth of time, we'll split it up for you through payroll deductions in a year, and it'll happen automatically. Okay, so now people will ask, you've told me all about how to make a service credit purchase. You've told me in general how much it's going to cost. How do I figure out whether I want to do this? This seems kind of complicated. Okay, let me show you how to figure this out for yourself, because everyone is going to make an individual decision. Okay, so if you have time that you want to purchase, here's how you figure out whether it's worth it or not. You're going to go to acera.org and you're going to log into your account. This is a shortcut to get here. WMS stands for Web Member Services. Otherwise, you could just go to acera.org, press the login button. It takes you to the same place. Okay. Inside your account, there's a tool called the Benefit Estimator. I think it says Estimate a Benefit. You click on that link, and you're going to run two estimates in there. Estimate number one, and for both of the estimates, you're going to choose the same retirement date. So you think into the future, you think about a reasonable retirement scenario. I'm going to retire in 20 years or whatever it is. And you pick a date that kind of fits that scenario. You're going to use the same date for both estimates. Okay. For estimate number one, you put in the date, and then there's a service credit override field inside of the estimator. For estimate one, you do not override the service credit. You leave it, you let the estimator give you do a projected service credit for this scenario. You leave service credit override blank and you click submit and you get your estimate. Okay. It gives you a certain dollar amount for this estimate, what your retirement allowance is going to be. You run another estimate, same retirement date. But in the second instance, you do override the service credit. So you take the service credit amount that it's projecting for you and you add how much you're looking at purchasing. So let's say that you want to purchase a year's worth of unpaid medical leave, okay? And you have already submitted the request to ACERA. We've sent you a letter in the mail telling you how much it's going to cost, okay? Well, you would want to be in this adding 1 year to that service credit amount that is already in the estimator. So it will tell you, like, in your scenario, your projection amount of service credit is 21.5 years or something. Well, you take the 21.5, you add 1 to it in this example, and you get 22.5. You put that in the override field. You run the estimate. In estimate number two, it's going to tell you that you're going to have a higher retirement allowance because you have more service credit in there. Okay. Estimate number one, you have a lower retirement allowance. Estimate number two, you have a higher retirement allowance because of the additional service credit. You have these two estimates. They're both PDFs. Okay. So you put those side by side. Oh, and actually, I do have a screenshot of the benefit estimator. So here's where you put in your retirement date, and here is the service credit override field where you would be adding the amount of service that you're trying to buy in the second estimator. Okay. Now, you take your two estimates, you have them side by side, and you look at the retirement allowance amount it's estimating that you're going to get, and you subtract the lower one from the higher one. You find out what the difference is between the two. Basically, you're finding out how much more estimate number two is, how much greater your retirement allowance is because you have made that service credit purchase. So you take that difference number and you take the purchase cost from the letter we sent you in the mail, like the dollar amount that we're telling you you're going to have to spend to actually get that amount of service credit, and you simply divide that dollar amount by the increase in your retirement allowance among estimates 1 and 2. What this tells you is how many months it takes you to get the money back. So, for example, if you get the letter in the mail and we're telling you it's going to cost $5,000, let's say $1,000. It's going to cost $1,000 to make the service credit purchase that you want to make, okay? And the difference between estimates 1 and 2 is $100, meaning that you buy that amount of service credit, it increases your retirement allowance by $100 per month. You're dividing 1,000 by the $100 increase. It's going to take 10 months to get your money back. That's really great. So that means that you spend $1,000 while you're still working, and in retirement, you're going to get higher retirement allowance at the time that you retire and for the rest of your life. And it only takes 10 months of retirement to get that $1,000 back that you spent. That's pretty good. So maybe it takes a year in retirement to get the money back that you spend. Maybe it takes 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Now, when you start getting up there, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, now you're going to want to think, is it really worth it? So you figure it out for yourself, how many years it takes to get the money back that you spend on having a higher retirement allowance. But just remember, the higher retirement allowance starts at retirement and it goes for the rest of your life. So making that service credit purchase can have a very great impact on your retirement allowance and your retirement security. Okay, so before we take a break, let me go through the last factor in the retirement formula. It won't take as long as service credit. The service credit is the longest topic of these three. Let me tell you about the highest average monthly salary component of the formula. And this is another one of those places where the tier, it'll show the difference between the tiers. I got that question earlier. What's the difference between the tiers? What does that impact? Well, this is one of the things, the highest average monthly salary calculation. Okay, so how do we calculate highest average monthly salary? Okay, how do we get this number for the formula? Well, what we're going to do is we are going to use our software, our pension software, to find your period of highest pay during your entire career. This is known as your final compensation period. So this is some pension lingo for your period of consecutive highest pay during your career. For tiers 1 and 3, our pension software will find your highest consecutive 26 biweekly or 12 monthly pay periods, depending on whether you're paid biweekly or monthly. For tiers 2 and 4, it will find your highest 78 biweekly or 36 monthly pay periods. Okay. Essentially, for tiers 1 and 3, it will find your highest year of pay throughout your entire career. For tiers 2 and 4, it will find your highest 3 years of pay throughout your entire career. Now, since our goal, formula-wise, is to find your highest average monthly salary, what we do is we take the total dollars you made either during your highest year of pay in tiers 1 and 3 or your highest 3 years of pay in tiers 2 and 4, and we simply take an average. We divide your total pay during that period by the number of months in that period. So by 12 months or 36 months, and that tells us your highest average monthly salary during your final compensation period, which is one of the multipliers in the retirement formula. Okay, now what pay is included in that higher average salary? And this is gross pay before any deductions are taken out that we're using for this calculation. So the types of pay that we're looking at are, of course, your base pay. And then we may also include other pay codes, sometimes called footnotes. These are some other types of pay you may receive, often based on different skills you have or different education levels you have. I can't tell you whether your pay code is going to be in or out of this calculation because there's like 1,000 different pay codes. But what you can do is you can go out to our website. Let me go back and show you where it's at. I think you can type in acera.org/pay codes, or you can navigate to it by going out to our website, going out under employers and going down to pay codes. And then you click on the PDF for your tier or for your employer. And you'll see in the PDF, if it pops up, you'll see a list of pay codes. And it'll say yes or no, depending on your tier, whether it's going to be in or out of the equation. Okay, that's how that works. So that's how you find your pay, whether your pay codes are included in the calculation or not. Okay, now there are two other bullet points here that can be included. If you're in tier 1 or tier 2, vacation sales, so where you sell vacation back to your employer while you're still employed, or vacation cash out, where you still have vacation left over on the books when you stop working and or retire, some of that money can be included in this salary calculation, which will give a little boost to the salary calculation. Now, because this is the new employee mid-career webinar, I'm not going to take a deep dive into that. In our pre-retirement webinar, we do take a deep dive into that. One of the ways to find more information about that on our website is to go to acera.org/vacation, and it will describe this concept. Another way is to go to our videos, go out to news and events, retirement planning seminars, and you'll see the different recordings. Click open pre-retirement seminars, and you can see whatever the last webinar is. It's a YouTube video. Just fast forward to the vacation part of it. You'll see, you'll actually, before I talk about that topic, you'll see this slide right here. So just fast forward to the slide, and then I'll take a deep dive into that vacation concept. And then there's a question up on the board. Does the service credit you buy count toward vesting? All of the service credit counts towards vesting, except for the service credit that you bought for the other public agencies in California. All the other ones count toward vesting. Okay, there are some limits to your benefit payments. There's more information if you go to acera.org/limits. There's a few other limits. Let me see here. One of them is that you can't get more than 100% of your final average salary as your retirement allowance, but that's a good thing to have happen because it means you achieve 100% salary replacement. But one of the main limits, there's a couple of other limits for people who have super high salaries that I don't want to get into right now because it applies to almost no one. But for tier 4 members, I do want to mention this limit. There is this cap. This was also written in that Pension Reform Act that we cannot pay out a pension based on more than a certain cap on annual salary per year. Okay, so for 2023, for general members, the cap is the annual salary is $146,042. For safety members, is $175,250. What happens is once you pass, if you do have a salary higher than that, once you pass that amount in the year, we will stop taking contributions out of your check until the next year rolls over, because we will not be able to pay out a pension based on more than that salary. So we can't use more than that salary when you're calculating your salary for the purposes of calculating your final average monthly salary, which is your highest average salary. But we also won't take contributions out for that, which leaves you more money to save in your 457B plan. Okay. So this is the whole thing put together. The age factor percentage times the years of service times the highest average monthly salary. In this example, I'm showing you a tier 4 member. They retire at age 65, which for their tier gives them a 2.30 age factor percentage. They have earned 25 years of service credit. Okay. So we put the 2.30, we multiply it by the 25, which gives us 57.5% salary replacement. And we multiply that by the 6,000, and that gives us a $3,450 monthly retirement allowance. That will be their monthly retirement allowance to start off with. When they retire, they'll get that every month for the rest of their life, plus cost of living increases. Now, again, I'm pointing out the salary replacement percentage. When you multiply these two numbers together, they're achieving 57.5% salary replacement, which is really good for just their pension alone. There is no, there is a salary cap for the tier 2 general members, but it's way higher. If you go to acera.org/limit, limits, it will talk about that. It's in the $250 some $1,000 range, I think, or even higher. So if you do have a high salary, check that out. Okay, let's talk about getting a pension estimate. I'm going to show you two ways to get a pension estimate. The first way, I'm going to show you a ballpark way, and this gives you a salary replacement number. So I'll show you the salary replacement charts that we have. So you go out to acera.org/planning, you can type that in, or I'll just show you how to navigate over there. Okay, again, here's our homepage. You can go to members, and you go down to planning your future retirement income, which is the third selection under members. Okay, so step one, you just go into here in step one and you open option number one. This actually shows you 4 ways to get an Acera estimate. And I'm going to focus on these first two. Option number one, excuse me, is using one of these ballpark estimator charts. So you just click on the button for your tier. Okay, I'm going to click on the general tier 4 button. And what it will show you is this, this chart here. So just to zoom in a little bit. What you do is you think of a plausible retirement scenario for yourself. Like you're 30, you're going to retire at age 60. 30, you just started, you're 30. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. You're going to retire at age 60, so that means you worked for 30 years. So you just find where those two things intersect. So you come down here, 30 years of service credit, and then you go over to age 60, 54% salary replacement. So that means your retirement allowance is going to be 54% of whatever your working salary was. That's pretty good, because you can use the other things, the Social Security and the savings, to get you up to the 70 or 80% that you're going to need. Okay. Now, one feature of this chart is that you can then proceed diagonally up and down, back and forth in the chart to see what the effect of working less and working more is. So if in this scenario, I'm 30 and I'm going to, excuse me, retire at age 60, with 54% salary replacement, well, what happens if I work another year? Well, I'm going to be another year older, 61, and I'm going to have another year of service credit, 31 years. So you just go diagonal. Working another year would give me 58.90% salary replacement. Working another year, going diagonally down again, would give me 64% salary replacement. So you can see how the chart works in that way. Or you could see what happens if you work a year less. 30 sounds like a lot, 30 years. So what happens if I work 29 years? Well, I achieve 45.90% salary replacement. So that's how those work, those charts. Okay, that is the first way to kind of get a ballpark idea of your as your retirement allowance. I mean, and another thing you can do is you can think of what your salary is now and multiply it by that percentage, and that will tell you what your retirement allowance is dollar wise. Ballpark, of course, because if your retirement is some time from now, you're probably going to get a lot of cost of living adjustments and raises. So there's that. Okay, option number 2 for getting a excuse me, a pension benefit estimate is you go out to our website, you press the login button, and you log in. And these are some screenshots that I already took just to make it more efficient. You log in, and you're going to see an account summary screen first off, and it's going to show you a lot of your pension data. It shows you your tier, your employer, whether you have reciprocity or not, your date of birth, employment date, entry date, how much service credit you've earned so far, how much you've contributed to the system. There's a lot of information in here. It's actually a good idea every time you look in here to make sure the data looks right. Maybe the service credit is off by a few weeks because there's a lag time in there. But otherwise, everything should look right. If it doesn't, contact us because it's good to take care of those problems earlier than later, those data problems. Okay, now you're going to click on Estimate a Benefit. And this brings you to the benefit estimator tool. So I will just zoom in to show you the tool so you can see it a little bit more closely. And in this benefit estimator, this is giving you a precision estimate. So it's going to ask you for an actual date that you might want to retire, a retirement scenario. Now, if you plan to go, or if you just want to see what happens, if you go straight from active working into retirement, so you're going to work another 20 years and like what's today, February 14th. So you're going to retire on Valentine's Day in 2043. What happens if you're going to do that 20 years from now? Well, you put in that projected retirement date. What you're going to want to do is have your separation date be the day before. So in this scenario, you're going straight from active work into retirement. These are 2 consecutive dates. Your separation date is your last day on payroll. Your projected retirement date is your first day in retirement, and then you hit calculate. Okay. Now, for some of you, maybe you want to see what happens if you earn a certain amount of service credit, or you work for a certain amount of time, and then you stop working and you wait to retire. Well, you can do that too. There's just going to be a gap between your last day of work and your projected retirement date. Okay. You hit calculate, and for your scenario, based on the data it already has about you, your date of entry, your age, what tier you're in, how much service credit you've already earned, your current salary, it's going to make these projections for you. So it's going to tell you how much service credit you will have earned in the scenario that you're doing, and it projects salary. Now, the salary, it's not going to project future cost of living increases or interest. If you want to see what the effect of higher and higher salaries are, you can override the salary number if you want. Go ahead and leave the hours of cash vacation compensation blank for now. You get a nice conservative estimate. You can put in beneficiary information and you hit get estimate, and you end up with this PDF. And we're going to redesign this. So this will look a little bit different maybe when you're watching the video later. But for now, what it's doing is it's showing you the estimated monthly retirement benefits for each one of the retirement options you're going to get to choose from at the time of retirement. You don't really want to worry about these options right now as a new employee or in your mid-career. Just look at the unmodified option. This pays the most of any of the other options. What the other options do is it allows you to leave different continuances to different beneficiaries, or a higher lump sum for option 1. But your situation is probably going to be different by the time you go to retire. So I wouldn't worry about this stuff now. You can just look at the unmodified option. And then this info up here is just the kind of all your demographic info and the data that it's using to calculate the pension. So just look at this unmodified option for now. You can just go by that number. Okay, so that's how to get a pension estimate. Moving on to the next category, the next topic on the checklist. Let's talk about retirement eligibility, and let me help you understand how you become eligible to retire. So we're talking about this milestone on the pension milestone chart. I'm going to show you this slide for tiers 1, 2, and 3, and then I'll show you this slide for tier 4 in just a moment. Okay, so if you're in tiers 1, 2, and 3, you have 3 different combinations of age and service credit that gets you to retirement eligibility. Okay, so option number 1 is that you are at least age 50, you have at least 5 years of service credit, and you have at least 10 years of membership with the SARA. That means you're eligible to retire. Now, for the difference here between the 5 years of service credit and 10 years of membership, that means that if you work at least 5 years, maybe you work 7 years and you quit working, you can't retire yet until 10 years has passed since your date of entry with the SARA and you're over age 50. If you're going straight from active work into into retirement, you just kind of think of it as 10 years. You have at least 10 years, you're over age 50, and you can retire. Okay, option number 2 is that you're going to retire with any, if you have, option number 2, as a general member, you have 30 years of service credit. As a safety member, you have 20 years of service credit, and you can retire at any age, even if it's younger than age 50. Option number 3 is that you can retire with any amount of service credit over age 70. Okay. Excuse me. Even if it's less than the 5 years of service credit that you need for option number 1. Those are the 3 combinations for tiers 1, 2, and 3. Let me show you tier 4. Option number 1 is you have to be, as a general member, at least age 52, or as a safety member, at least age 50, and you can retire with 5 years of service credit. So a lot of times you think about retiring as, working a full 30-year career and then retiring when you're age 65 or something. But you can see that the various combinations that give you retirement eligibility means that you don't necessarily have to do it that way. I mean, yes, if you are a tier 4 member, you retire at age 52 with 5 years of service credit, your retirement isn't going to be huge because we're only putting 5 years of service credit in the formula. But it does mean that you could retire with, 11 years or something, or 17 years, or whatever you need to do. So you just have to meet the minimum requirements, and then you can retire based on, what works for you. And you also do have the option number 2. You can retire with any amount of service credit at age 70. So even if you have less than the 5 years. So let's say you're a tier 4 member and you've tried out this public service work, and you're in 4 years of service credit, and you decide you want to go do something else. Well, you can do that. And you can even leave your contributions on deposit with the SARA, and at age 70, you can draw a pension from a SARA for the rest of your life based on that 4 years of service credit. So you do have that option. And we'll talk more about the retirement planning options should you leave early in just a little bit. And there's a question, are the pension payments taxed at your marginal income tax rate? Yes, as combined with all of your other income in retirement. So yeah, you will have to pay taxes on your pension income, but usually you're making less in retirement than you were while you were working. So usually you're paying at a lower tax rate, but you're going to use the same tax tables that everyone else uses to pay your taxes. Okay. Let's talk about additional benefits. We offer other benefits besides the retirement allowance. Okay. There's medical, dental, vision benefits and other non-guaranteed benefits. There's disability retirement, which is if you become permanently disabled and you cannot perform your job duties, you can apply for disability retirement. I don't take a deep dive into that today, but we have a whole disability page that walks you through that whole process. And but you can, that is an option. If you become disabled, you can apply for disability retirement. It's a whole process. You have to go through a whole bunch of steps, and you have to be granted the disability retirement by the Board of Retirement. But it is something that people do, and it is an option. And then we also have death benefits. Okay, so let me talk about the medical, dental, and vision benefits first. So we offer this set of extra benefits. This is something that the county decided back in the 80s that they wanted to, or the retirees, to have this extra set of benefits to help pay for their life in retirement. And they started this reserve fund called the Supplemental Retiree Benefits Reserve that pays for these extra benefits. Now, our Board of Retirement runs that fund. Okay. So their whole goal is to keep that fund going now and in the future. So they're tasked with ensuring that funds stay sustainable, which means that these benefits may change. They may be reduced or eliminated, or the benefits may be held the same from year to year, the amount that it pays out, in order to keep that fund sustainable. So that's just some small print, fine print for this being, these are not guaranteed benefits, but the goal is to continue offering these in the future and to keep that fund sustainable. So the board makes up these rules, and their rules for who gets these benefits are based on years of ACERA service credit to qualify. Okay, so you'll see that the benefits are listed out here. There's a medical subsidy. MMA stands for monthly medical allowance. It doesn't stand for mixed martial arts. This is our medical subsidy known as the monthly medical allowance, and this helps pay for the cost of being enrolled in our medical plans. There's a dental subsidy that pays 100% of your dental premium. There's a vision subsidy that pays 100% of your vision premium. There's a Medicare subsidy that pays currently the 100% of the lowest rate of what the federal government charges you for Medicare Part B. There's also a supplemental cost of living adjustment that keeps your buying power from eroding more than 15% in retirement. These these can represent a lot of money in retirement. And the reason I'm telling you about them now, I'm not going to go into detail about them, but I'm telling you about them now in the new employee / mid-career webinar, is to show you what the years of ACERA service credit are to qualify. Okay, you can see that the supplemental cost of living adjustment is the only one that doesn't take any years of ACERA service credit to qualify. Everyone has access to that once they lose at least 15% of their buying power in retirement. That it kicks in and keeps you at 85% of your original buying power. All the other ones start at 10 years of ACERA service credit. Okay. Medicare subsidy, vision, dental, and the first level of the medical subsidy. Then there's two more increased amounts for the medical subsidy at 15 years of service and 20 years of service. The reason I want to show this to you now is because this is kind of about career planning, okay? So let's say that you have already worked here for 9.5 years and you're considering going and doing something else. You may want to just stick it out another 6 months, get over that 10-year mark, because between the Medicare, vision, dental subsidy, and the first level of the monthly medical allowance, that can represent a lot of money in retirement. Same thing goes with the 15-year level, 15-year qualification, or the 20-year qualification for the next levels of the medical subsidy. Okay. So this is just something to keep in mind, these amounts of ACERA service credit. And one more thing I'd like to point out, it says ACERA service credit. This is only service credit earned with ACERA. So reciprocal service does not count here in this chart. Okay. And MMA means monthly medical allowance. So that's the medical subsidy. That's just our name for our medical subsidy. So coming back to the pension milestone chart, I'm actually going to add a milestone here for the healthcare subsidies at 10 years. This is a major milestone that you're going to want to consider trying to reach in your career, because that gets you over the qualification for a lot of the non-guaranteed benefit subsidies. Okay, so Other benefits. So, and the reason I'm moving on now is because, I could show you the medical, dental, vision plans and all that, but they change, periodically. They evolve every year. The medical, dental, vision landscape may look totally different 20 years from now when you go to retire. So, I'm just gonna go. If you want all the details of that, go and check that out on our pre-retirement webinar. Okay, so let's talk about designating your beneficiary, since we're talking about other benefits. So what we're going to do now is talk about death benefits. Okay. So your beneficiary, that word just means someone who gets benefits, someone who gets your benefits, or someone who gets benefits in general. Your Acera beneficiary is the person that you designate to get your Acera death benefits after you pass away. If you designate a beneficiary for your bank account, for your other types of, for your life insurance, we don't go by that. Okay, so you're designating your beneficiary for each one of those individual things. Okay, if you leave something to somebody in your will, that's not what we're talking about here. You're going to want to designate your Acera beneficiary for your Acera death benefits. That's what we go by. That's how we know who to pay out your death benefits after you pass away. Okay, so let me show you. I'm going to tell you all about the death benefits should you die before retirement. Okay, if you die after retirement, there's a whole completely different set of death benefits, and we talk about those in the pre-retirement seminar. But since this is the new employee mid-career seminar, we're just going to concern ourselves with the death benefits payable should you die before retirement. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but it's good to, plan this out and know what these things are. Okay, so if you are not vested, meaning that you have less than 5 years of Acera service credit, but you're still actively working, what the death benefits that your beneficiary would receive would be a return of your employee contributions and interest. So this is basically, we refund the balance of your contribution account that we have at Acera, plus 1 month of salary for each year of service, up to 6 months worth of salary. Now, if you're not vested, the maximum that you would be able to get would be 4 years, 4 months worth of salary here. But so that's the cap on that. But they would get 1 month of salary for each year of service. Okay, so in addition to the return of the balance of your contribution account. Now, if you are vested, they have that same choice, and that's why the 6 months is in there, because they have that same choice if you are vested. If you have at least 5 years of Acera service credit and you die while you're actively working, and I'm not saying that you die at work, you just die while you have a job, while you're while you're on payroll. Your beneficiaries would have the choice of one of these 3 options. Option number 1 is the same, return of your employee contributions and interest. So that means that a refund of the balance of your contribution account plus the 1 month of salary for each year of service, up to 6 months worth of salary. So if you've already worked 6 or more years, they would get 6 months of your salary in addition to the return of the contributions and interest. Option number 2, to a spouse, state-registered domestic partner, or minor children, would be a monthly survivor's allowance. Now, if it's a spouse or state-registered domestic partner, it would be an allowance that they would get every month for the rest of their life. If it's a minor child, there would be a cutoff at age 18 or I think age 22 if they maintain enrollment in an accredited school. But there's more details about that on our death benefits page. Option number 3 is a hybrid of options 1 and 2. They would get 1 month of salary for each year of service, up to 6 months, as a lump sum, and then a reduced monthly survivor's allowance. This is not something that you can choose in advance for them. We offer them these 3 options upon your death. And so we give them more details about the different options. What you can choose at this point is to keep your beneficiary designations current. Okay, this is what you do in advance. This is how you plan for this. Okay, so you go to acera.org/forms if you want to designate your beneficiary. Now, active members and deferred members, and a deferred member is somebody who has stopped working but has not retired yet, has deferred their retirement to a later date. An active member is somebody who's actively working and actively earning retirement. You all may change your beneficiaries at any time simply by filling out this form. You can even check your beneficiaries in your account. So here's a screenshot of the nominated beneficiary screen in our member portal, Web Member Services. You log in, you see who your beneficiaries are. If you get in there and you see that your nominated beneficiary is your spouse from 3 spouses ago, you're going to want to go ahead and redesignate your beneficiary because you don't want us to pay out the wrong person. Okay. So it's good today. Just log in there. Good thing to do today. Just log in there, check who you've nominated as your beneficiary. If you want to go ahead and redesignate your beneficiary, there's even links in there that will link you out to those forms. Okay. And I skipped a couple of things. So going back, deferred members, a deferred member, and we'll go into this concept more in a little bit, is, like I said, somebody who's stopped working but hasn't retired yet. You've deferred your retirement to a later date. If you're not actively working and you haven't retired yet, the death benefit would be simply a return of the contributions and interest. Okay. So those are the additional benefits plus the death benefits. Let's talk now about career planning options. So, like I said earlier in the presentation, at some point you're going to stop working at your job. Option number 1 is to retire. If you're already eligible to retire and you're going to stop working at your job and you're already eligible to retire, you can just go ahead and retire. So you work straight into retirement and retire. If you leave your job, that's one option. Just go ahead and retire. If you do retire, you're going to earn that service credit right up to retirement. We will actually convert your sick leave. You'll get half of your sick leave up to a cap as service credit. There's more information on that on our pre-retirement seminar. You can go work anywhere else if you want. We don't care. You're going to be an Acera retiree. We're going to pay you your retirement allowance every month for the rest of your life. So go work wherever else you want, unless you try to come back to work for your employer, and then there's restrictions on that. But you can find out more information about that on our website. But like I said, you can get your Acera retirement at the same time that you're working anywhere else. Okay. So that's one option. Now, the next 3 options are if you decide to stop working and not retire. Okay. I'm going to call, because we're already at options 1 and 2, I'm going to call these 3 sub options A, B, and C. Okay. So these are your A, B, and C options should you stop working and you're not ready to retire yet. Now I'm going to add in a milestone to the pension milestone chart, because you're not going to work straight until retirement. You're going to have a termination date that's sometime before your retirement date, and there's a gap here. Okay, so what are your options? Options A, B, and C. Option A is you can become what we call a deferred member. You leave your contributions on deposit with Acera. If you have contributions on deposit with Acera, but you're no longer working for one of our employers, you are a deferred member. And which means, because the word member is in there, you're still an Acera member. As an Acera member and having contributions on deposit with Acera, interest continues to accumulate. Every time Acera's fund earns interest, we post interest to your individual account. And in fact, there's no negative interest. And people ask me what I mean by that. I mean that we never take money out of your account. If we have adverse investment experience, like we lose a little money on paper in the short term, we never take money out of your account. That does not affect you, okay? So there is really nowhere that you can park your money that earns the type of interest that we earn. Like I said, over 7% on average annualized, if you look at the last 30 years, where there's no downside, there's no risk. It's if you don't know what to do yet, like if you stop working and you don't know whether you're gonna, find another job and apply for reciprocity, or whether you want to take a refund or not, just leave it parked there for a while. Interest will continue to accumulate. There's no risk. You can even retire later out of deferred status. So if you decide to retire later, you can retire out of deferred status. Or if you decide to come back to work for one of Acera's participating employers later, you can go ahead and do that. And you pick up where you left off. You start paying into the system again. You start earning more credit toward retirement. So you go from being on hold in a deferred status back to active status. Or you could be refunded at any time. So you stop working, you keep your money on deposit with Acera, and you decide 5 years from now, as a deferred member, I'm going to go ahead and take that refund. I've thought it over. I've decided. You can do that later. Okay. No, there's no hurry to do that if you choose to do that. Okay. Now that's option A, become a deferred member. Now option B, should you leave work and not retire yet, is to establish reciprocity with a different retirement system. So establishing reciprocity is linking different California public retirement systems together. We have reciprocal agreements with many of the cities in California, all the California state jobs except for the UC system. Any agency that uses CalPERS, which is the state's retirement system, for their retirement system, maybe they're a small agency, they don't have their own pension fund, they use CalPERS, we have reciprocity with them. You can see the full list. Every county in the state, we have the full list at acera.org/reciprocity. So you can link all these retirement systems together. What happens when you link the retirement systems together? Why would you want to do that? What are the benefits? Well, here are the benefits. One of the benefits is that the service credit all gets linked together when we're looking at vesting and when we're looking at retirement eligibility. Okay. So if you have 2 years at Contra Costa County and 3 years at Acera, that's 5 years combined, you're vested. If you have, if you're tier 2, and let's say you're tier 4, you're age 52, you have 2 years at Contra Costa County, you have 3 years at Acera, that's 5 years. You're eligible to retire. Okay. So it gets you to the retirement eligibility and the vesting requirements. Now, the second benefit of establishing reciprocity is the highest salary you earn under any of the reciprocal systems is going to be what all the systems use when we go to calculate your retirement. So here's how this works. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you work in Acera for 10 years and you're earning $20 an hour. Okay, you see another job over in Contra Costa County, for example. That job pays $30 an hour. And you go ahead and take that job and you go over there. Let's say you work there for 15 years. Okay. Now, when you go to retire, and you have 25 years total, that you're way eligible to retire. Okay. When you go to retire, you retire from both of those systems on the same day. We will each do a pension calculation. At Acera, we are going to calculate your 10 years here with your age factor percentage here with your salary, your highest salary that you earn under any of the systems. You're earning more at your new job over in the next county. So we're going to call them, we're going to get your salary, and we're going to plug in that higher salary into our calculation and do the calculation, send you a check based on that calculation. Over at Contra Costa County, in this example, they're going to use your age factor percentage over there, your 15 years of service credit over there, and your salary over there. They do their calculation. They send you a check. You get 2 checks from me, one from each system. That's how that works. So your highest salary is used by all the systems when calculating your retirement. Additionally, if you are tiers 1, 2, or 3, it keeps your contribution rate lower. For tier 4, that doesn't really affect anything. Okay, in order to qualify for reciprocity, you got to do 4 things. 1, you got to leave your contributions on deposit with all of the systems you're linking together. Okay, so you work at Acera for 5 years, you get another job in Contra Costa County, you work there for 2 years. Oh, there's an even higher paying job in Marin County. Go work there for 3 years. Oh, there's an even higher paying job in San Francisco County. Go work there for 4 years. Watch out, in San Francisco County, you can't take vacation for the first year. It's ridiculous. And then you link them all together, and you, as long as no more than 6 months passes, it's a 180-day gap between when you leave the first system When you leave the first job and enter the next system. And so watch out that for the entry date, it's into the next system. Okay. Not the date of hire. So 180 days is about 6 months. Can't have more than a 180-day gap, or else you can't establish reciprocity. You don't want to have overlapping service. Don't go on like a 4-week vacation at the end of your service here and immediately start a new job somewhere else. That's overlapping service, and that disqualifies you from establishing reciprocity. All you need to do, go ahead and terminate the job here, start the new job the next week over there if you want, and they'll cash you out for your vacation that's on the books anyway. So you get all that money anyway. And then you got to retire from all the systems on the same day. That's options A and B. Okay. So option A is deferring. You just simply leave your contributions on deposit with Acera, go do whatever you want. You can retire later, or you can take a refund later. Option B is establishing reciprocity. You're basically becoming deferred by option A, and then you're establishing reciprocity with option B. Okay. Now, option C is you can take, should you leave here and not retire, you can take a refund of your employee contributions and interest. Now, there's some things to remember here. If you do that and you're looking for cash, you're wanting a lump sum payout, you're going to lose a third of your money immediately to taxes and penalties. The penalties are for early withdrawal from a retirement system if you're under a certain age. If you don't want to lose that money, you can roll it over into another type of retirement account, and you don't have to pay taxes or penalties at that time. Refunds take a long time, 45, 60, perhaps more days. So it's not an instantaneous thing. And basically, you're waiving all your rights to Acera benefits. Okay. So you're saying, I don't want to retire. I don't want to collect a monthly retirement pension for life, monthly retirement allowance for life. I don't want access to any of the healthcare benefits, any of the death benefits. I just want a lump sum one-time payout. Okay. So you're free to do that. It's your option. It's your money, right? But let me give you a little pitch for not doing that. First of all, if you do retire from Acera, I told you at the beginning of the presentation that if you do retire, we're going to give you that money back anyway within the first 3 to 5 years through your pension payments. And everything after that is like a major bonus for you. It's a secure income that you get for the rest of your life. You're not going to get that from just taking a refund. The other thing is, I mentioned this, the no risk of leaving your contributions on deposit here. So you just leave your contributions on deposit here, and we're just going to continue. They're going to continue to accumulate. We're going to continue to pay interest, and there's no risk. So that's my pitch for not taking a refund. If you are going to achieve retirement eligibility, it's not really worth it. You can always, to figure it out for yourself, you can look at how much money you have as a balance in your account, and you can also compare that with an estimate of your future retirement benefit when you do the estimator, and you can see that for yourself. Let me see. One more thing to say about that. People ask, and I should do a slide on this. People ask about reasons that you might become deferred. What are good and bad reasons to become deferred, to become a deferred member? Okay, a good reason to become a deferred member is that you don't know what you're doing yet. You don't want to make a decision yet, and so you just become a deferred member. You're done working, but you don't know what you want to do with your money yet. Just leave it on deposit. Okay. Another good reason to be a deferred member is that you may want to come back and work for one of our public agencies and earn more credit toward retirement later. Okay. Another good reason to become a deferred member is that you are a tier 2 person and you've already achieved 5 years of service credit, but you don't have the 10 years of membership yet, and you're waiting for that. Or you're a tier 2 or you're in any tier person, and you don't have the 5 years, but you're going to wait until age 70 and you're going to collect that pension. So that's a good reason to defer. Another good reason to defer is you're going to establish reciprocity. Okay, here's not a good reason to defer. you're done working, you're already eligible to retire, but you are going to not retire immediately because you want your age factor percentage to increase, because we're going to use the age factor percentage at the time you retire. Yes, if you do that, you're going to earn a higher retirement allowance because your age is going to be higher when you retire, but you're missing out on pension payments that you could be getting. So let's say you wait 2 years to get 2 years older. Well, that's 2 years worth of monthly pension payments that you missed out. And if you do the math, you'll find that you'll never catch up. You'll never fully get that money back, even though your retirement allowance is going to be larger later. So if you're already eligible to retire, you know you're not going to come back to work here to earn more retirement. And you're not going to establish reciprocity. You just go ahead and retire and start drawing that retirement allowance. Oh, darn it. I clicked on the link. Okay, good. Sometimes when I click on links in here, it freezes. Moving on. Okay. Okay, there's a question. Is ACERA fully funded? Is there a risk that the pension payout won't be available down the line like Social Security? ACERA is not fully funded, but we are very funded. If you go to, let me see, about ACERA, we are currently 86.5% funded, which is really good. The goal is to be 100% funded, which means that for every dollar we owe now in the future, we have a dollar currently to pay that out. Currently, for every dollar we owe now and in the future, we have 86.5 cents to pay out. But this number goes up and up every year because our actuary sets the contribution rates so that we make up that difference over time. So over the next 20 years, we're going to make up that difference. And the employer is on the hook for making up the difference. So they have to pay more. If the funded ratio is not at 100%, they have to increase their payments temporarily until we reach 100%. And that's state law. The county, the employers make 100% of their payments every single year. It's against the law for them not to, and it's never happened. So you don't have to worry about that. It's there is virtually zero risk of the county defaulting. Okay, so let's talk in our last few minutes before I turn it over to Jean Hilliard of the county to talk about the 457B plans. Let's talk about making a retirement planning picture. So you've seen this slide once already, and I said I was going to return to it. Now's the time. This is a picture of your income in retirement. And like I said, financial planners will tell you that you are going to need 70 to 80% of the salary that you're earning before retirement. You're going to need 70 to 80% of that in retirement to maintain your standard of living. And that income is going to come through your ACERA monthly pension, your Social Security payments, and everything else is going to be your personal savings and investments. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. Let's jump in here. We've talked a lot about the ACERA pension and how that works and what you can expect with that. In order to do this equation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you do some projections of the ACERA monthly pension and Social Security. And then what we're going to do is we're going to fill in the gap with savings and investments. And you're gonna probably ask, well, how do I know what that's gonna what that is now? How do I project that in the future? How do I get a picture of that? We're gonna use some technology. There are some retirement calculators, and we're gonna utilize those to give us a projection of the future. So your first two steps are to get an estimate of your ACERA pension and Social Security. Okay. Now, if this is a long time away, maybe you do a few different scenarios. You look at what happens if you retire at age 60, 62, 65, 67. You could even do it earlier than that, 58, 55, just to get a sense of what the possibilities are. So for right now, I'm going to use an age 62 example. Okay, so again, to get your retirement benefit estimate from ACERA, you log into our website, you use the benefit estimator, you get the retirement benefit estimate PDF, and you look at the unmodified option. Okay. You're also we're also going to be looking at the age of retirement, and in this scenario, like I said, I'm going to be using an age 62 example. So in this example, this person is going to get about $2,200 per month from Acera as their Acera pension at age 62, based on the benefit estimator. Okay, now we're also going to go out and do an estimate at Social Security's website. They have a similar estimator. If you go to ssa.gov/estimator, you'll log in there. You are logging in as yourself to Social Security, so they have your Social Security data in there, and they will take you through their retirement estimator, and the end result is going to look a little something like this. They'll give you a retirement estimate at 3 different possible ages that you can collect Social Security. In this example, they're giving you estimates for age 62, age 67, and age 70. Okay. Well, since I'm going to stick with the age 62 example, I'm seeing that it's $1,700 a month. But you just go ahead and print it out or write it all down so that you can do a lot of different scenarios. Okay, so I have an estimate from Acera. I have an estimate from Social Security. This is a little window into my future regarding my income from Acera and my income from Social Security. What I'm going to use now is a retirement calculator to fill in any gap that's not getting me to the 70 or 80%. I recommend trying out a bunch of different calculators, okay? If you Google or Bing, whatever your, or DuckDuckGo, whatever your preferred search method is, retirement calculator, you will find a whole bunch of different ones pop up. Here's some examples. There's Vanguard, Prudential, T. Rowe Price, Kiplinger, Charles Schwab. There's a bunch of others. The best ones will allow you to put in a pension amount and a Social Security amount. And I think these all do that. Now, here's a screenshot from the Vanguard calculator. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out and do it for real on our website. So what I'm taking you through is kind of a brief version of this planning your future retirement page. You go under members, you go down to planning your future retirement income. And this is actually a step-by-step process that you can do at your leisure of kind of what I'm telling you. It's helping you get a pension estimate, helping you get a Social Security estimate. So there's links out to all of these things. It actually tells you when you can collect Social Security. And there's actually links to a few of the calculators out there. So I'm going to link out to the Vanguard calculator. And you can see that what it's doing is it's asking you various questions about your situation, and that's called your retirement story. Okay, so I'm going to plug in some numbers here from this example, this fictional person. So let's say I'm 30 years old. And let's stick with the age 62 example. I want to see what happens if I get on the trajectory of retiring at age 62. Okay, let's say that I make $70,000 a year. But you type in all the stuff, whatever it is for you. Okay, now this field right here is how much you save annually. If you currently save money toward retirement in your 457B plan, in an IRA, in a bank account, and in other investments, you can put that in here. If you currently save zero, don't stress out. It's not a big deal because we'll see if we can get you saving a few dollars through the course of this process. So I'm just going to leave it at zero for now. And then it lets you put in how much you've already saved for retirement. Let's also leave it at zero. Let's say you saved nothing. And it's asking you what percent of your salary you think you're going to need in retirement. Let's stick with 80. Okay. So this is the salary replacement amount that I was telling you about, 70 to 80%. You can play with it, but financial planners will tell you that you need 70 to 80% of your pre-retirement income in order to maintain your standard of living. So I'll just put in 80 in there. Okay, now this number, the annual return that you are expecting from your investments, from your retirement savings investments, In my opinion, this number should be somewhere between 2% and 7%. 2% is super safe. 7% is kind of average risk with a super diversified portfolio. Sarah expects to get 7% return annually based on our super diversified portfolio, and we're pretty conservative. So I'm just going to go. Let's try out 6% just to be even more conservative and see what happens. Okay, and this is based on the idea that you're going to park your money. Like, it's based on the idea of where you're going to park your money. If you're going to park your money somewhere like an index fund, or part of your money somewhere like an index fund, and this is one of your options in the 457B account, is various index funds where you're investing in 500 or 1,000 or more different stocks. So you're super diversifying. You will find that over time, over many years, the annual return tends to be in that range of 2 to 7%. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is click on additional income sources. And I'm going to add that Social Security number, which was about 1,700. Let's just do it a round number. I'm also going to add the pension number, which was about 2,200. And then I'm going to click calculate. Okay, what you're seeing here is a graph of the left column is your estimated monthly income at the time that you retire. The right graph is your estimated monthly expenses based on your income. And it's basically using your current income to estimate expenses. Now, there's a gap here. I don't quite have enough to pay for my life. This is my life. This is how much I need to pay for my life. So I need to fill in that gap with additional savings, okay? And you can see that the dark green represents Social Security paying for part of my life, and the lighter green represents my pension, my Sarah pension paying for part of my life. And so I need to fill in the gap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up and put in some savings, and I'm going to recalculate. Let's say that I save $400 annually between ages 30 and 62, and I earn 6% on that. Let me recalculate and see. Well, the chart moves up a tiny bit. So we're going to need to go a little bit more than that. So let's see what happens if I save $4,000 annually. I'm going to come down here and recalculate. Okay, so I'm getting close. 4,610, and I need 4,667. Let's see what happens if I go to 5,000. Okay, too much. So I don't need to save that much. Let's see what happens if I go to 4,400. Okay, that's getting pretty good. 4,680, 4,670. You know, I can keep refining this, but the refining can get a little in the weeds here. 4,300 is more like it. Okay, so maybe that sounds like a lot in this scenario. I'm going to say it's 6% of my annual income, 4,300. Can I find $4,300 per year to save? Maybe. Let's see what that looks like over 26 pay periods. So I'm going to take 4,300 and divide it by 26 pay periods. And that's actually only $165 per month. So then the question for me in the scenario would be, can I find $165 per month additional to save toward retirement? And if I do, that actually will get me on the trajectory of, by the time I reach retirement, I will have 80% income replacement, because this is what the calculator is telling me. Even if I'm only earning 6% per year on that money that 4,300 I'm investing every year over this 32-year period. So this gets me pointed in a direction. So 100, what did I say? $165 in this scenario. So my advice is to go do the calculator for yourself and see how it works for you. And it's not none of this is going to be exact. You'll try a bunch of different calculators. They'll all give you a slightly different amount to save additionally. Okay. What you'll find is that really what you're doing is getting yourself pointed in a direction. You're getting pointed in the direction of 70 to 80% income replacement or whatever you're targeting. Okay. And what I like to say is to come back 6 months or a year from now, do the calculator again, do the estimates again, do the calculator again, rethink your scenario, and it'll maybe tell you a little bit different number, and you adjust how much you're saving at that point. Do it a year later. Do the same thing. Do the calculator again. It keeps filling in the gap for you of how much additional you need to save, and you just keep readjusting it. And you'll find over the years, as you adjust this amount, by the time you reach retirement, you will have achieved 70 to 80% income replacement. Now, maybe $165 in that scenario, it's going to be different for everyone. It sounds like a little much. Well, maybe you just save $20 for now, or $40, or whatever you can muster. And I think what you'll find is that once that money is taken automatically out of your account, because the best way to do it, I think, is to put it into the 457B plan. It's an automatic deduction from your paycheck. Once that a couple of pay periods pass, you'll stop missing that money. It just automatically gets saved for you. And then maybe later you crank it up a notch, crank it up to $60. Then maybe later crank it up to $80. And if you just crank it up periodically, you'll find that you'll miss that money less and less. And you can kind of ramp up to that savings, and you just keep doing the calculator again. And by the time you retire, you'll be at that 70 to 80% mark. So somebody's making the comment, I divided 4,600 by 26 and it should be divided by 12. The reason I divided by 26 is because most people are paid biweekly, and there's 26 biweekly pay periods in the year. So it would be $165 per biweekly pay period. Maybe I was saying per month, but I meant per pay period. If you do get paid monthly, you would want to divide by 12 months, definitely, to see how much money that you would want to have taken out of your check per month. So one of the things that, before I turn it over, and I'm about to turn it over to Gene Hilliard of the county's 457B plan. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Is the place where you might want to think about parking your money is somewhere that you have the potential to earn interest, especially if you're a new employer in your mid-career and you have many years, especially decades, where you can keep putting money in and you can weather the ups and downs of the market. Because the market does go down and it comes back up. And if you look at the market over time, the general trajectory is up. So over long periods of time, you tend to earn interest. And I'm talking years and decades. If you are looking at it in the short term, you could see some short-term losses. But if you stay in the market over time, you will you'll tend to see that it increases over time. And if you're in interest, it helps you beat inflation, and it helps you more through the power of compound interest. So compound interest is you're earning money on your money, and then that money that you earned on your money, you're earning money on that. And then the money that you earned on your money, you're earning money on that. And if you look at a compound interest graph, you'll see that if you leave your money in over time and you keep earning more money on the money that you've earned, it accelerates. Your earnings accelerate the longer you leave it in, and the more interest you earn over long periods of time. Now, be cautious, because the higher the potential for earnings, the higher the financial risk. You are the one, if you're investing this additional money somewhere, you're the one that is tasked with researching the risk and the safety of the thing that you are parking your money in. Okay. So there's some great places to do your research. There are websites called NerdWallet and Investopedia, and there's a few others out there, and they will break down for you these investment concepts and tell you, different places that you can park your money. One of the best places to park your money is the 457B program, which we're about to get into, because what you're doing is, A, you are taking money out of your paycheck, you're lowering your tax liability. B, it's happening automatically, so you don't have to think about it. And C, your money is going to be professionally invested, and based on what you pick, you kind of get automatic diversification, and you can figure out the diversification with Gene Hilliard, who's about to start his presentation. But diversification is one of those things, one of the things you want to shoot for, and it's very easy to do in the 457B program. There's some other, if you do max out your 457B, or if you don't like the 457B, there are some other low risk savings options mentioned here, and there's more info about each one of these options out on that Planning Your Retirement page. Again, you're solely responsible for the investment risk that you take on. But I do like to mention, some of the places that you can park your money that are safer, especially the FDIC insured ones, are pretty good bets. They do typically they earn lower interest amounts, like in the 2% or less range. But if you want to park some money in there, that is a good safe place to park your money. And then there are free financial planners from the Deferred Compensation Program. You can meet with them as many times as you want. You can hire a financial planner if you want more help. If you do that, look very closely at the fees, because if you hire a financial planner, they're going to say, okay, I want to take charge of your money. I'll earn you a whole bunch of money. I'm going to charge you only 1%. 1% is a huge chunk of your money, a huge chunk of your earnings. So if you're going to do that, you can feel free to do that. Just like look very closely at the fees and what they're charging you. And again, there's an expanded article at acera.org/planning, and it takes you on a step-by-step, and it tells you in detail about each one of these. There's actually some medium risk options in there that it details for you, and it tells you how to do the research on NerdWallet and Investopedia so that you are making sure that you're cognizant of your own risk. There are lots of investment scams out there. There's a big, Netflix documentary that just came out about Bernie Madoff. Be like super, super skeptical of any investment manager. Like some family member comes and they say, oh, there's this guy that, he makes 11% or 9% guaranteed, or even if it's not guaranteed, he tends to make 12% or whatever. I got all my money with him. Be very skeptical of that. So it's up to you to do your own research, just like scour the internet when you are figuring out where to park your money. Okay. So with that, because we're running out of time, I'm actually a little over. I'm going to there's a couple of questions up on the 457B program. I'm going to turn it over to Gene Hilliard at this point to talk about the 457B program. Gene, are you there?
I am here. Let me put my video on here. Can I start your video? Because the host has stopped it. Oh, okay.
Oh, let me make you co-host, and that'll fix that.
Okay. There we go.
Hey, Gene.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.